Welcome to Hard Beautiful Journey, where we embrace vulnerability as our superpower and let courage light our path. I'm Tiff Carson, here to share heartfelt stories of healing, grief, and resilience. Each week, I'll talk with guests from experts to everyday heroes about their journeys through adversity. Together, we'll uncover the beauty that emerges from life's challenges and how each experience can spark profound growth. Join us on this courageous journey of connection and transformation. Some stories aren't just meant to be heard, they demand to be felt. Today's conversation will challenge you, it will inspire you, and maybe even change the way that you see the world. Human trafficking isn't just something that happens in movies or distant countries. It's happening everywhere, often in ways that we don't recognize. And today's guest knows this reality firsthand. At just 4 years old, Jennisue Jessen was trafficked by someone who should have protected her. For years, she lived a reality that most of us cannot even imagine. But here's what makes her story extraordinary. She didn't just survive, she fought to heal, to rise, and to ensure that no one else has to endure what she did. Jennisue is the founder of Compass 31, a nonprofit that guides survivors out of exploitation and into freedom. Beyond her work, she's a living testament to the power of using your voice to break silence and reclaim your story. This isn't just about human trafficking, it's about healing, hope, and the courage to rewrite your own ending. Stay with us. You're going to want to hear this one. Hello, Jennisue. How are you?
I am so honored to spend this time with you, Tiff, and your audience. It's just such a powerful space to sit and use our voices to raise awareness and facilitate freedom. So, thank you for sharing your time and your platform.
Absolutely. I am honored that you want to share your time and your story with us, especially with the topic that we're going to be talking about. Your story is one of survival and healing and fierce advocacy. But before we dive into your work, I want to take listeners back to that moment where you knew that your life purpose became clear and that defining experience. What was that for you?
Oh gosh, like how my work began, how I knew that I was living in Southeast Asia. And, with my family, my husband and I were working there, and I couldn't go on a date on Friday night without encountering men, middle age or older, old men out on dates, using quotes there,
Mm.
with little kids, sexually exploited little kids. And, I mean, we'd go to normal restaurants in touristy places, and there would be men there buying and taking home children for the evening. And at that point became really clear to me that um, I didn't survive just to get by, but my story was meant to facilitate freedom for other people. And several things happened. I started volunteering at a place that was working with sexually exploited youth, and about 6 weeks in, that program was being closed down, and my husband and I opened our home to 3 mama baby sets. So 3 teenage girls who had been trafficked, exploited, and conceived babies in exploitation. We took the mama baby sets into our home, and that is how my organization, Compass 31, was born. I often say we were born breech. Like God just dropped this bloody, squawking miracle butt first into my life. I didn't have a program, finances, facilities, a plan. We just said yes to the need in front of us. And now here I am in my 14th year.
Wow, holy smokes. I think that many people just assume that trafficking happens in foreign countries or other far off places, or it involves kidnappings. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've come across in your work?
Those are great points, and that is what I hear most frequently. When people think of trafficking, they think far away in another place. And as I just explained, my work is we have an international counter trafficking organization with a presence in 44 countries. So it does happen in far off places, but we know from research and statistics that it actually happens in every country in the world, including the US. And the US is one of the top 5 in the world destinations for individuals that are being trafficked. So people are brought into the US. But it's easy to look at Hollywood stereotypes. You know, we tend to think of the Jim Caviezel's or Liam Neeson's busting down doors and killing bad guys and rescuing girls. But kidnapping involves such a small portion of what's happening in the trafficking world, and there's reasons for that. Trafficking is most effective through coercion,
Mm.
and the vast majority of individuals who are trafficked are initially trafficked by somebody they know and trust. So, well over 80% are trafficked initially by a family member or a romantic partner. Another more than 10 to 15% are a trusted community member. And so it's a very small percentage that are actually kidnapped. And yeah, it's happening right here in the US. I live in Colorado and it's happening in my neighborhood. So,
What? So, from what you've seen, what does the grooming process look like? Or what are the steps that they usually take in order to do that if it's somebody that you know and love? Or is it something just like it just happens and they just do it?
grooming is often a part of the paradigm. A lot of trafficking is an outflow of what begins as sexual abuse, not to minimize in any way. Any kind of sexual violence is an act of violence.
Mhm,
But an individual perpetrates sexual abuse, and even that is a process of building a trusting relationship
mhm.
and showering this individual with affection and with treats and trust and special adventures and bonding with them. And that escalates into a physical, I almost said relationship. It is in no way a relationship, it is
Mhm.
exploitation, but it escalates into physical or sexual contact. After that point, the perpetrator often will then, a soft entry into trafficking would be introducing the person they're victimizing to their friends, to their coworkers before they start exploiting them on a broader scale. But one of the things that your audience might be surprised by, one of the fastest growing trends in the US is high school kids sexually exploiting younger kids. And these are the popular girls primarily,
Yeah.
the upperclassmen, juniors and seniors, popular, affluent, upper middle class girls who identify middle school girls or underclassmen who are not really popular, who want to be in the in crowd. They invite them to a party. At the party, they give them drugs or alcohol to get them under the influence of substances. While they're under the influence, they take sexually explicit, sorry, photos. Then they use those photos to control the individual and force them to have sex with other people for money. And so that's the fastest growing trend right now in the US is high school kids, primarily girls, exploiting younger kids.
What? Oh, my mind is just blown right now. What the heck? So, okay, I don't even oh my goodness. So you have said in a lot of your work that victims don't identify as victims. Why is that? And how can we shift that perspective so that they get help?
What a fabulous question. I am so glad you asked that. Not only do victims not identify themselves as victims, but those of us that serve them don't identify them as victims. There's two reasons for that. From the perspective of the individual being exploited, because they have had a relationship with the person exploiting them, they feel responsible for what's happening to them.
Mm,
An example referring to this fastest growing trend, I consulted on a case of a 14-year-old girl who had been invited by the popular girls to a party, had been through the experience we talked about, but she had snuck out from her home. She wasn't allowed to go to the party. She knew she wasn't supposed to be there.
mhm,
So when she got into trouble, when she was violated, when these pictures were taken and these girls threatened, I'm going to send them to your dad, I'm going to send them to the youth pastor, I'm going to send them all over to school. She was afraid to tell her parents.
mm,
She was ashamed of these sexually explicit photos taken without her consent.
mhm,
And so for a period of 9 months, she submitted. She did what they told her to do. She was being extorted and exploited. She continued to do what they told her to do because she was terrified of being found out, and she felt responsible. Had she not snuck out, had she not gone to the party, she felt like she wouldn't be in that situation. Now, I just want to be really, really clear. It is never, ever, ever her fault.
mhm, mm,
Every kid does things that are regrettable at some point.
yep,
Sneaking out of your house, what you wear, those things have no impact on victimization.
mhm, mhm,
So I want to clarify it was not her fault, but she felt responsible.
yeah,
And that is true for the vast majority of individuals that are victimized. They love this person. And if only I did things differently, then I wouldn't be in this situation.
mm,
Or if only I performed better, maybe it would stop. If only I could make them happy in another way, then it would stop. And so, because we need to control our world just as humans, we
mhm,
want to be in control. And children, particularly, believe they're magical. Like, I cry and somebody comes. I want dinner and it magically appears. I don't make dinner when I'm 4, right? It's just
mm,
here
mm,
because I want it.
mm,
And so, because we have that magical thinking, especially young people, we think it's our fault. So we don't identify as victims. The reason service providers don't identify individuals that are exploited as victims is because it infers an identity on them based on the worst thing that's ever happened.
mm, mhm,
And that isn't who they are, it is what they've experienced. And so from day one, we're building into them their true identity, which remains unmarred by what has happened to them. Their experiences equip them to go out and change the world. They do not define them. So that's why service providers also don't call them victims. We call them men, women, children,
mm.
individuals who have experienced this thing.
I love that you distinct it that way. It is so much more empowering for
Mhm.
them after they've experienced something like that. After someone has escaped trafficking, people assume that the hard part is over. They got out of the trafficking situation, but survival of that and healing are two completely different things. What was one of the
Absolutely.
most unexpected challenges that you faced after your experience?
The most unexpected challenge. That's a really interesting question, Tiff. I don't think I've ever been asked that. And and so my answer may seem a little disconnected, but I'm going to answer you authentically.
Yeah, I love that.
And that is I grew up believing I learned in really brutal ways that my survival depended on my silence and my submission.
Mm,
And I learned it well. So using my voice And telling what happened was a huge, huge challenge. The other piece that I want to add to that is I grew up believing that every man was dangerous. All men just wanted one thing. And so in recovery, the world changes. And now I have autonomy. Now I can ask for what I want. Now I can get my needs met in a safe way. Now I'm interacting with men that aren't perpetrators.
Mhm.
And it's an entirely world shattering, in the best possible way, challenge to interact with individuals who you have only known or expected to be perpetrators. In my case, I thought all men were bad, right?
Mhm.
And to begin interacting with men that could be noble, could be safe, could be respectful was wildly challenging in the most profound and healing way.
Mhm. How long did that healing journey take for you, or are you still on that healing journey of trusting?
Yes and no. How long? I came to freedom when I was 18. I'm now 53. So 35 years. I healing. I sometimes still sleep with the lights on. I sometimes still have nightmares. I have been married to my husband for 30 years, and there's still times that I'm touch me not,
Mm,
because the terminology I use with him is I'm haunted. It's not him I'm rejecting, it's that I can't be touched right now for
mhm,
whatever emotional, spiritual, physical reason. That being said, what healing looks like for me is I am living a life of purpose and joy. Joy to the point that I often wake up in the morning and I wake up and my face is tired, sore from smiling so much in my sleep.
mhm.
Who does
That
that?
happens to you too? I have noticed that a few times lately where I'm like, "What is going on here?" Like, was I
Yeah.
laughing all night or what?
Laughing all night, and my day-to-day life is immersed in the depths of counter trafficking work.
Mm,
I'm personally mentoring 18 survivors. We have work, I said, going on in 44 countries. I am immersed in the darkness, and
mhm,
still I wake up with joy and am living this amazing life of purpose. So healing is incremental, and yes, sometimes I'm still haunted, and it's
mhm.
just part of the journey.
What's one piece of advice that you would give someone at the beginning of their healing journey, from this experience?
I would say they don't need any advice at all from me. They have survived the unthinkable. I would say the fact that they have come out is proof of their resilience,
Mm,
is proof of how fierce and powerful they are. They have again and again and again suffered violence and again and again gotten up and put on their makeup and gone to do the next thing. So they don't need advice from me. They need somebody to say, "Hey, baby, it gets better from here. We're going to take all those skills, all those coping strategies that kept you alive, and we're going to figure out how to translate them into you living this powerful, dynamic, world changing life."
I don't
Um,
know. Those people that are working with you are so, so, so blessed to work with somebody like you to guide them through this, because that is so powerful what you just said. Like, it just gives them their life back.
yeah, they've been stripped of their autonomy for how long? Days, weeks, years, and years.
Mhm,
I I don't have any desire to control or direct or advise. I just wanna I'm a big sister. I'm gonna walk alongside of you. Nightmares? Yep. Scars? Yep. Things that you wanna get rid of? Let's do that. You set the priority. The individuals I have the privilege of working with, they set the priorities, and I help them navigate the systems to get their needs met in a healthy way, and move towards purpose and joy. But it's all them. They have it in them.
Mhm.
I would say they're created in the image of God, and they have this resilient, unstoppable spirit. The fact that they're here talking to me is proof.
Mhm.
So I affirm that and listen to what they need, and we walk towards it together.
That is so beautiful. But something that is so much more beautiful is this post that I read on your account about somebody named LB.
Ah, yes. LB.
Would you like to speak about LB on my podcast? Because I was in the ugly tears.
I love that. LB is, this amazing human that in a lot of ways kept me alive and kept me whole through my childhood. And surprise, surprise, coincidentally, in 4 days, she will be here in my home and she'll be here with
What?
me for
Oh
several days.
my gosh.
But your listeners don't know why that's important. Let me tell you.
Okay.
Um, we might get more into it, but my history, my childhood is one of trafficking and exploitation. I was sold into the sex trade when I was 4. Um, God provided for my rescue and escape after a failed suicide attempt when I was 17. But a lot of my exploitation happened because my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was addicted to my dad. And when things were particularly chaotic at home, they sent me to my grandparents' house 3 hours away.
Mhm.
And that's where my grandfather was my primary perpetrator. When I was at home and not at my grandfather's house, I had a nanny and her name was LB. And she came from this huge Catholic family and she loved me fiercely. She did not know what was happening. Had she known, I'm quite confident she probably would have hunted down my grandfather and put an end to him because she just loved me with this genuine, tender ferocity. She was aware of the alcoholism. She was only when she started taking care of me, I was 3, 4, and she was 15. So she was kind of a baby herself,
Mhm.
and she lived with us, part of that time, again, taking care of me, driving me to school, taking me to T-ball practice, taking me to the dentist, planning the birthday parties. She did all the things. Cooked
Mhm.
dinner, took me to her house for Sunday dinner after mass. She did all the things. But when I was 9 years old, my dad quit drinking. We moved to a new place. Initially, LB moved with us. But then my mom decided she needed to be a mom and that I was far too bonded with LB. And so I went to school one day and I came back and LB was gone. And my mom had fired her and sent her away. There was no opportunity for goodbye for her or for myself.
Mhm.
And I was 9 years old and we didn't see each other again until a year ago, last May. Her daughter worked in an investigative job and LB had looked for me all of these years. And
Wow.
they found me on Facebook and she pops up with a message, "I don't know if you'll remember me. I took care of you." And I'm like, I'm ugly crying at that point. Of course, I went directly to my hope chest. And after years of exploitation, I have very little of my childhood. But in my hope chest, I have a picture that LB and I colored together of Pink Panther
Mm.
when I was 4 years old. I have had this colored picture that we did together for 48 years at that point.
Mhm.
And she found me and we reconnected and it was both of our hearts. We had longed for and looked for each other all these years. And she found me. And now next week, she's going to be here in my home. We've continued to stay connected, reminisce. I remember things about my childhood, things that she did, songs we sang together, adventures we went on, her little navy blue Pinto that was a death trap that didn't kill either one of us, you know, all
Yeah.
the things, all the things. but she was an individual in my life that was a point of stability, a point that love was safe and protective and nurturing and really the only experience I had until adulthood that that's what love could be.
So what has that
And
taught you about, um, the long-lasting impact of love? Like, even when it's lost, what has that taught you about it?
yeah, even when it was lost, when I came home from school and she was gone, I cried for days and days, and my mom was furious that I kept crying that she was gone. But she was, in a very real sense, a mother figure to me, the only mother figure I really knew.
Mhm.
Um, and I think love doesn't expire. It once it takes root, it is always there. I think some individuals come in our life in a very short season, some in a much longer, some even in a lifetime, over the course of a lifetime. But the way that she loved me in selfless ways planted a seed that perhaps I was worthy of love.
Mm,
Maybe I was worthy of care. It could be possible that there was safety somewhere because I knew safety when I was with LB.
mm,
And I think those are really key pieces for anybody who experiences violence. It's we can remember these acts of violence and we have nightmares and triggers and all of that, but also at any point I can shift my focus to a birthday party that she was making the cake, or her taking me to the park and seeing how high she could swing me, or her taking me to high school because I couldn't go to school that day. Um, and everything in my demeanor shifts because in that season, despite the violence, I also knew moments of a pure, unadulterated kind of love. And that lasts a
yes.
lifetime.
Do you think that that reunion with LB has helped you even more with your work through Compass 31?
Oh, absolutely. It brings a different level of healing to my heart. My work was happening before. I would say the love that she poured into me as a child contributed to my work long before we reunited. It's
Mhm,
like I always carried forward what she gave to me in the people I was serving. That no, baby, you are worthy of protection. You are worthy of love. I
mhm,
see you.
mhm,
Let me make your birthday cake. I I carried forward what I learned from her, even though she was absent after I was 9
mhm,
until just this last year.
mhm,
So, has she impacted my work? Absolutely. Has reconnecting expanded that? I don't know, but I know it's certainly expanded my healing and my heart
mm.
to find some fullness or fulfillment to a relationship that I only knew as a child. Now I get to interact with her as an adult,
Mhm.
and it's a whole new level
A
of
whole new relationship to
loving and being loved.
yeah. I'm so, so excited for you to reconnect with her in the next coming days. I hope to see it on your social media, at least a picture. And the reason why is because I, uh, we had a nanny for our kids, for about 2.5 years when they were little, and that relationship is so beautiful. And
Mhm.
it's so important to have those loving relationships for your children, especially in my case, I was going back to work, but just knowing that they were being taken care of by someone that loving was just a relief for us. And I still have a relationship with our nanny too. So it's a beautiful thing. So when I was reading it, like I was ugly crying your story. It was just beautiful. So, um,
It is a beautiful redemptive story. And, back to the context of this conversation and trafficking is we all have the opportunity to see and express love to the people in front of us. And
mm,
there's people hurting all around.
mm,
1 out of 3 women will be sexually assaulted by the time they're 18, and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually assaulted by the time they're 18. And maybe they're just at your house for dinner one night. And in 1 2 hour conversation, you can express that they are worthy, that they are seen, that they are known, that they are loved. And that might be the seed that keeps them alive and drives them towards freedom.
mhm. Absolutely. So, what point in your journey did you feel or say to yourself that I can't just heal myself? I need to help other people too?
I think it probably goes back to the season that we were living in Southeast Asia. And what's significant about that, I don't want to put too much emphasis on the trafficking over there
Mhm,
because that's the stereotype that everybody thinks of, right? The difference with trafficking over there is it's culturally accepted that people sell their children. That's just a cultural norm where I was living and working. Nobody really frowns on it.
mhm,
It's just the cultural norm. Whereas it happens with the same frequency in the US, but in the US, we frown on it. We all, culturally say, you don't have sex with children, period. You don't buy and sell other people. This is not acceptable.
mhm,
So culturally, it's secret,
mhm,
right? It
mhm.
happens in the shadows, it happens in the dark.
Yep.
Where I was living, this particular place where I was living in Southeast Asia, it was out in the open. And I couldn't sit back and watch it unfold and not intervene.
Mhm,
There was just that wasn't a possibility. I had to be involved. Initially, I didn't know how I would be involved or to what extent. At that point, I was a homeschooling mom in Asia. I thought maybe I'll volunteer, 2 hours a week with an organization that's providing services.
mhm.
And then the joke was on me. 4 to 6 weeks after starting volunteering, I was in it full time, and now June will be our 14th birthday. And
Wow.
we expanded from initially, we said yes to that 3 mama baby sets who moved
Mhm.
into our home, and then we expanded from there. Now we have restoration work in 5 countries and prevention work in 44.
What does Compass 31 do differently than other anti-trafficking organizations?
One of the things that makes us distinct is we believe in empowered ambition. And so from the time a participant comes into our program, the day one, they go with their caseworker and they open a bank account in their own name. And they start earning a salary or a stipend every month based on their participation and performance in school. The more they show up and the better they perform, the more money they earn. We have volunteers who are financial advisors who help them. 1/3 of their money every month automatically goes into that long term savings account. 1/3, if they want to, they can invest in their families. And we've seen really cool things like a girl buy a motorcycle for her dad to go back and forth to work. Another girl learn how to build aquaponics systems and doing that in her village for her family, all these different things. And then 1/3 is just to be kids with, to go to the mall, to buy the shoes, to buy the candy, to go to the movies. But because of that, our participants, when they graduate our program, generally have between 1,500 and 2,000 US dollars saved in their own name.
Wow.
It's all theirs. Their education has been paid for. We have one participant who graduated law school and passed her bar exam. We now have four who have achieved master's degrees in social work and are working as social workers. We have a couple of business degrees. We have a couple of small business owners. We have some that went to beauty school, some that went to sewing school. A girl whose dream it was to make custom wedding dresses. She used to fall asleep. She was one of our first three girls that we said yes to. And she would fall asleep in the family room with bridal magazines across her face. And
I
now
love
she
that.
works in a shop and she custom designs and makes beautiful
Oh,
wedding gowns.
that is so inspiring. Oh my goodness.
And so that makes us distinct because there's a lot of programs that, they employ the girls or boys and everybody makes jewelry. Everybody makes purses, which is fine. And I'm not faulting those. I'm glad that it works for them. But I'm a mama at heart. And I want these girls or boys, these participants, to be everything that they were intended to be before the trauma happened.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
I don't want them to follow in my footsteps. If they want to make jewelry, absolutely. Let's go to design school and figure out how to make the most exquisite pieces that you can make. But I want them to be what they were meant to be before the trauma happened. And so, empowered ambition, we walk alongside them to the highest level of education they desire,
mm.
and then watch them launch and be world changers.
Honestly, that is so incredibly inspiring. I'm just so happy that they have you and your company as their guides back to a place of where they can be so incredibly proud of themselves
Yeah, it goes
and
back to
safe.
that one of the first questions you asked. I don't see them as victims. I
Mhm,
see them as these fierce, resilient warriors. They're capable of anything.
mhm,
Let's give them the tools to do the thing because
mhm.
there is nothing these individuals can't accomplish. I don't pity them. I don't look down on them. I don't, placate, pat them on the head. I'm like, come on. They will rise to the highest levels. I mean, beyond what we could ask or imagine. And that's why I wake up with my face, aching with joy, is because, yeah, I see the dark, dark, but I have a front row seat to watching redemption unfold again and again and watch these individuals who have experienced the worst of the worst rise to their highest capacity
So
and
you
change
just
the.
talked about the joy that you do feel and see, but like you said, it is a dark, dark topic, experience. What other tools do you use to keep yourself okay?
To keep myself okay, I learned several years ago, gosh, I don't even know how long ago, many years ago, that our emotional state follows our thoughts. If I'm telling you about the day I got married, this happy, beautiful, barefoot on the beach wedding, then I'm going to be glowing. I'm going to be smiling. And my brain is going to release all these happy chemicals in response to me thinking of this story and telling you this story. If I'm thinking about a traumatic event, then my brain doesn't have a timeline. It believes that event is happening right now. And just like with a happy story, it's going to release all of the chemicals to cause my body to go into fight or flight,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And so my emotional state follows my thoughts. If I'm sitting with an individual and I'm listening to their story, I can listen with deep compassion and empathy. I can sit with them in their grief. I can be stomping mad, table flipping mad. I can cry with them. And also, I can see the potential, the resilience, the possibility. And when I start calling that out, then their emotional state changes and we're equipped with what's called mirror neurons because we're made for relationship. I will become calm, they will become calm, together we rise. All boats rise with the tide.
mhm,
And so when I get in a dark space, It's because my mind is caught in a loop of these dark thoughts, and I can honor it. I can, yeah, that's worth being mad about. That is worth grieving. And I can ask myself, self, what do you need? Do you need a hot bath? Do you need a walk? Do you need to just be stomping mad? Do you need to cry for an hour? I can honor what my body needs, whatever that is. A bowl of chocolate ice cream, favorite coping strategy for me. Um, and then once I honor that emotion and that need, I can shift to, you know what? I'm still here and I am watching. I have a front row seat to the best show on earth,
Mhm.
seeing what, I personally credit God with, that God created these individuals majestically, fearfully, and wonderfully made, and watch them become everything they're meant to become. And that is a joyful thing. So that's how I keep myself well. I feel all the feelings. I don't deny it. Like, yeah, today was a sucky, hard day. And also, here's where I saw joy, and here's where I saw hope, and here's what I have to be grateful for.
Mm.
And my body responds to my thoughts, and I have power over that. And for somebody who's been stripped of your autonomy, that's a wildly beautiful power to wield.
Mm, mhm. So, one of the pillars in the Healing Heart journey that I created is find your tribe. What role has community and belonging played in your recovery and advocacy?
That's a great question, and a super challenging question, to be honest. I think many of us who have endured compound complex trauma, for me, it was 14 years of
Mhm.
rape for profit, we tend to be a lone wolf, right?
Mhm. Yep.
What happened happened in isolation. It didn't seem like there was any help. And as somebody who's come out of that, it is really, really challenging to develop trusting relationships,
Mm,
intimate friendships, people who are trustworthy, people who aren't going to pity me, people who aren't going to look down on me, people who aren't going to want me to fix them. Like, it's a relationally, there's a lot of overcoming to do.
mhm,
But the reality is, well, maybe that's too strong. What I have come to believe and understand is that trauma doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is relational. It happens between one person and another. And healing is relational. It happens between one thing. The antidote is relationship. And so finding those key people, I have been blessed with some tremendous friends. My board of directors, the women on my board for my ministry or my work are, I mean, they know me warts and all. They know when I've had a hard night. They know me when I'm, they need to yank my chain. Hey, Jenny Sue, like,
yep. Come back.
come back.
Yeah.
And they'll do it with love
Mhm,
and, yeah, a fierce kind of love. So I would say maybe it's not unique to those that have experienced sexual violence. That's just the demographic I live and work in.
mhm,
Maybe it's true for all people, but when we find a tribe of people that we speak the same language,
mhm,
and by that I mean a language of common experience,
mhm.
not just English, but
Yeah.
a common experience,
That's a really
then
good way of putting it. A common experience. Find your tribe that has had that same experience as you is
right.
so important.
And when you're in a tribe, inherently there will be people that are further along and people that are not so far along.
Mhm,
And that in and of itself is a healing equilibrium.
mhm,
It provides hope for the newcomers. It provides hope for the ones that have been at it for 30 years
mhm,
that need to know, yeah, look how far I've come. And in empowering this person, it empowers me. So these co-empowering relationships that happen within the context of people who not just have empathy for where you've been, but have themselves been there
Mhm, mhm.
is a really strategic part of healing. It doesn't happen easily. It is a challenging thing to find people you can trust
Yep.
in those spaces when you've been violated by people you trust. But yeah, I think the antidote is healing. Uh, the antidote to the trauma that happens in relationship is the healing that happens in relationship.
Mhm. So we hear a lot about raising awareness. What are some real tangible ways that people can help?
The thing is, I used to teach, like, here's the red flags and here's the steps you can do. And there is a national hotline, human trafficking hotline. But the reality is here's what I've come to believe is that every individual has the capacity to have an impact when we will slow down and see the people in front of us. Like, maybe she's experiencing domestic violence. Maybe his dad just got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It's not necessarily trafficking related, but people all around us are hurting.
Mm,
And so we in our culture right now are so busy scurrying and scrolling, you know? We're scurrying from point A to point B. Got to get the kids to school, pick the kids up, go to soccer practice, get dinner, get kids ready for bed, get to work, do the same thing again and again. And if we have a moment's reprieve, we get sucked into scrolling through our phone.
mhm,
And when that happens, people are crossing our path all the time, and I would argue many of them are experiencing sexual violence and or sexual exploitation. And we're so busy scurrying and scrolling that we don't ever see them.
mm,
So when you're asking, how do we get involved? How do we raise awareness? It is put down your phone and cut half the things out of your calendar.
mhm,
Go for a walk without looking at your phone. Talk to the kids at your table about, you know, where did you where did you feel powerful today?
mm,
Where did you feel happy today? Who did you help today? How did you fail today? Have real conversations with the people in your life, and you will encounter people who are hurting and also people who are healing.
mm,
And you'll have the privilege to have a front row seat to watch them heal and rise. So, like I said, I used to have this whole list of red flags and steps A, B, C, D, what you do. And now I make it much simpler. Slow down to the speed of love.
Oh my gosh. I love that. That's gonna be on the quote sheet, just so you know. Slow down to the okay, so I could talk to you for a long, long time, but I'm going to put this up here. If people want to learn more about you and work with you, you can check out Jenny Sue's website at compass31.org or Instagram at compass_31. I end every episode, Jenny Sue, asking my guest what they are grateful for because there is always something to be grateful for. Always. What are you grateful for today?
What I am grateful for, I alluded to it earlier. One of the things I learned as a child was my survival depended on silence and submission. And I am super grateful to be able to have conversations like this, to use my voice. And, I was stripped of that as a child, and now I get to own it. And not only do I get to own it, but I get to share it with other people and empower them to use their voice. I had a great, incredible, empowering conversation with one of my girls just right before I got on the call with you. And she had been through some really hard things today, and we got to celebrate how she navigated it in a healthy way. So there's so many things about my life to be grateful for. The fact that I'm still alive. I have 3 beautiful kids. I have grandbabies 3 and 4 are on the way.
Mhm.
I get to spend next week with LB.
Mhm.
So many
Mhm.
things. I have an amazing husband that taught me that not all men are dangerous. So many things to be grateful for.
Oh my goodness. Your story seriously has been amazing to hear, and just I'm really grateful for you being here and sharing it. It's one of heartbreak and healing, survival, all of it. And I just want to be really clear how grateful I am that you know how important the work that you are doing is so important in this world,
Hmm. Thank you for that.
and to
It
keep
is
going.
it's a good work, and I'm grateful for you as well.
Thank you. As for anyone else that is listening, I want to leave my listeners with this. And I'm going to try not to cry because this has
Mm,
been a really emotional episode for me. Healing, it isn't just about surviving what broke you, because a lot of us think that we might not come back from that thing that broke us, but it's about reclaiming our story and finding those people and using our voice to create something bigger than ourselves. And if this episode moved you, let that feeling turn into action. Go follow Compass 31 and educate yourself. And most importantly, never underestimate the power of even the smallest act of kindness and love. Because as Jennisue has pointed out, sometimes the love that we give without realizing it becomes the very thing that saves somebody else's life. So until next time, take care of your heart, hold space for somebody else, and remember that your journey, no matter how hard or how beautiful, or both, it matters. Thanks for being here for this episode of Hard, Beautiful Journey. I hope today's episode inspired you to embrace your own vulnerabilities and recognize the strength within you. Remember, every story of resilience adds to the beauty of our shared journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Your support helps me spread hope and healing to even more listeners. Until next time, keep shining your light and embracing the beauty in your journey. Bye-bye.